Welcome to the Unsexy Entrepreneurship Podcast. Everything you need to know for millennials looking to start, acquire, or grow a business. With CPA and entrepreneur Charles Harris and director of the Entrepreneurship Institute, Dr. Seth Jensen. This is the Unsexy Entrepreneurship Podcast.
Welcome to the Unsexy Entrepreneurship Podcast. If you're a millennial who is done with corporate America and obsessed with starting, acquiring, or growing your business to be financially free and independent, you're in the right place. I am your host, Charles Harris. I'm a CPA, and I'm joined with my co-host, Dr. Seth Jensen, and this is the Unsexy Entrepreneurship Podcast. So today we're going to talk about networking, social capital, really getting yourself out there. I think this is one of the most important things for entrepreneurs to learn. And again, I work more on Main Street side of the business, but I think a lot of these same principles can be used at any size of company, because I can guarantee you that Amazon works with other Fortune 500 companies to provide them with supplies, right? Like all of this can be taken and transitioned throughout all of business. So Seth, why don't you give us a bit of a definition of what social capital is?
Yeah. So my fun definition of social capital, because I agree with you, I think it is everything in entrepreneurship. I cannot overstate the importance of social capital in entrepreneurship. So I think of it as the magic pixie dust of entrepreneurship, like the thing that just makes miracles and magic
We're going to
happen.
fly to Neverland?
Exactly, yeah.
I love flying to Neverland.
A more technical definition of social capital is, we think of financial capital, for example, or human capital. There's a bunch of different types of capital. Financial capital, obviously, you can spend money to get stuff done for you. Human capital is kind of the your knowledge, your skill set, things that people pay you to bring to bear in businesses. Social capital it's a relationship-based capital. So it's the mutual understandings we have with the people that we can activate to get stuff done. So the example I always use, if you're moving on a Saturday, if people show up to help you move for free, because you have social capital with those people, right? Your mom typically is the person you have the most social capital with in the world, right? She's willing to wake up and make you pancakes in the morning. That takes a lot of social capital to get that done. You and I have a lot of social capital, right? Like you called me up at the beginning of your business. You're like, hey, can I talk through my business? Normally, I would charge a lot of financial capital to consult someone with their business. But for you, it was just a no-brainer. Of course, I'm going to do it for free. And since then, you've helped me with my business for free, right? So that's all transactions happening based on social capital. And it's what makes networking work, right? And it's funny too, because social capital, it can open up doors, obviously. It can decrease the amount of financial capital you have to spend. So someone might say previously we would charge this much to help you with this, but we're buddies. And so we'll give you a good deal or a discount or something like that. And it can also be a way for again, all the examples I just gave were free, right? To get things that would normally cost a lot of money, but totally free.
Yeah. And I think this is really true. So I do a lot of networking. That's the majority of how I get my clients in my business. It has been really interesting. People I'm friends with now will introduce me as the accounting expert, or if they hear someone needs accounting help, they immediately call me over and they say, oh, well, you should talk to this guy. He's awesome. I might not even help them in their business, right? But it's that social capital. We're friends. We've been friends for a while now. And it really helps speed up the acquisition process, because I come in and they've already introduced me. They already trust my credentials, even though I haven't explained what my background is. They already trust me as a person too. So it can be really beneficial, I think, in growing and speed of growth too.
Absolutely. That magic pixie dust you just described was like having a sales team for free, having people that aren't just connecting you, but doing so warmly, doing so with they're actually really excited to connect you with and help you, right? So it's magical. And I think what's important to realize is we are social creatures fundamentally. So when people are making choices in business or outside of business, there's a social context to that, and they're working based on social proofs. So that's why those warm connections that are happening from your network are so much more powerful than a cold call, right? Because people are looking for, hey, if this person I like trusts this person, then I too like that person and trust that person, right? That's how we operate. It's how we choose what TV shows we watch, what foods we like. We are really a product of our network in a way that is honestly mind-blowing, almost to the level of creepy, like we're all in the machine, just a product of our environment type stuff. This is some research, just to give you a smattering on this. There's been research that shows you are likely the same weight as the people you are closest to. Like if you are surrounded by a bunch of obese people, the odds of you being obese are incredibly high, right? Or smoking, the same thing. If you're surrounded by a bunch of people that smoke, the odds of you smoking are much higher. Happiness is determined in so many ways by the people around. If we're surrounded by happy people, we also are much more likely to be happy, right? We are a product of the people we know, right? Like our mom was totally right when she was like, get good friends because, bad ones will lead you down the path. Like the science supports that, right? Moms of the world, thank you. So it's super important to activate social capital in ways that really affect your business positively because it's determinative of so many things.
That's really cool. What do you teach in school on how to do the network? Because I think that's where people get scared and they don't know what to do. They know it's important to talk to people, but how many local businesses there are versus how many that I have seen on a regular basis and know from all my networking is very different. So if you go around my town, right, you can find hundreds of different businesses that are solo operated or franchises that are pretty small. I am pretty involved in the community now and have been for a good year at this point. And I think I see a very, very, very tiny percentage of those business owners at those networking events. And some of them, like a McDonald's franchise, I'm not sure how much it really helps.
Your business.
But in business, yeah. But the majority of businesses, I think, could be really benefited from being present locally.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So let's talk a little bit about network structure and why networking is so powerful. Because you kind of actually broke this down really well. Like, there's this community of businesses and business owners around you, right? And we can think of that as a network map. So each person or business owner being a node on that map. And they've got their inner circle, the people that they're really close with. And that's called their inner network. Those are the people that you spend a lot of time with, you see regularly. And those people know other people. So you're connected kind of indirectly through the people you know. So, for example, I know you, we're tight. We have tons of social capital between that. We have what we call a strong tie, lots of trust, lots of bandwidth in our communication, but you know a bunch of accountants that I don't. So if I needed a specialty accountant service that you don't offer, I know for a fact I could talk to you and you could connect me with that person, right? So you're part of my inner network. And that's actually called bridging capital, where you're a bridge between me and something else I need. There's also people in my network that I don't know as well as you, right? Maybe they're a colleague I used to work with or someone I see occasionally at church but don't talk to all that much. That's kind of my outer network. And similarly, they have a bunch of people they know and I can reach out to them as well, but maybe it's a little less warm a connection as it would be with you.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed that they'll help.
Yeah. So what's important is both your inner network and your outer network can do magic for your business, and they typically do different things. So your inner network, you're more likely to have redundancy. Like you and I know more of the same people. We both are nerds and read nerd books, and we're very similar, right? It's called homophily.
Yeah. But I mean, we were even roommates in college, right? So that by itself will give us a ton of connections.
Exactly. So me reaching out to you is there's less variety in what you could provide me as someone that's in a totally different space. They're just going to know a different set of people, right? So if I need to, so there's just kind of pros and cons there. Pro of reaching out to you, really lots of trust. You can have a really warm introduction. Con is we probably know a lot of the same people. When I reach out to that associate that I worked with 5 years ago and we left on good terms, but we haven't really followed up, they're a little less excited to help me, but they're going to know a lot of people that I have never met before. So the takeaway here is don't just stick in your inner network because it's easy or because they really know you. And don't just stick in your outer network if you're afraid to, there's sometimes a discomfort in talking to your close friends and family, right? Like sometimes we don't want to tell people that we started a business because we're ashamed. Don't limit yourself. Use your inner network. Be really open with what you're doing in your business and use your outer network. Don't be afraid to do slightly colder calls and reach out to people you haven't talked to in a while. There's power in both of these parts of your network. And the more you get the message out, the more you let the world know about what you're doing, the more magic and luck can happen in your business in so many different ways.
Yeah, I love you call it luck because it's so funny trying to explain where my clients come from and it all kind of appears as luck. And that's not really what it is, right? I've put myself out there. I've done a ton of things. But I think if you were to explain to someone randomly on the street, like, oh, I found this person because so-and-so knew so-and-so who then, like, I think probably one of the weirdest connections is I know a payroll specialist whose daughter goes to the same church as someone else's daughter, who then recommended their father to me as a client.
Yep.
Right. That
There's
was
no
a
way you could have
really
planned for
weird
that, right?
No. And still to this day, I'm still confused at why they trusted me and how they even found me. But I think that's I think what's kind of interesting about this whole thing, because I think that you could say that was luck, but I had a one-on-one with that payroll specialist. We've chatted several times. We've worked together. So in that weird situation, however the name got passed, it worked because of that social capital I had built and gained during other periods of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I just want to emphasize, like, social capital, these networks that we're a part of can do so many things for your business. What I always talk about for the really early startup situation, you tend to be financial capital poor. You tend to not have very much money. If you do, congratulations. But most people don't have tons of money when they're starting their business, right? They don't have an organization, they don't have revenue, but they tend to be more social capital rich than they realize. And that social capital can do a lot of the things the financial capital would have done. So for example, maybe you don't know how to register your business or run your books or set up an e-commerce site or whatever, there's all of these things you don't know. You could technically pay a consultant to do that for you, or you could use your network to get those answers and maybe be connected to people that would make great partners in the future to actually do them when you do have money to pay people. So getting answers, social capital is great for that. Finding the right person that has that expertise you need, taking them to lunch is a powerful way to do it, right? Like, people love talking about what they're good at. And so getting free lunch and talking about what they're really good at is, everybody wants to do that, right? And it's very little cost to you. So get the answers with your social capital. Again, you can often get a little bit of free labor to help you get started with your social capital. You can make connections for your first clients through social capital. They can be that sales and marketing team you need at the beginning. So many different opportunities. So remember, you are social capital rich. If you've got a problem, apply your social capital before you fork over a bunch of money to solve it.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize how rich they are in social capital until they start a business sometimes.
Yeah.
Or even just ask, right? I think we've talked about this several times, but just saying what you're doing and then asking people if they know anyone is one of the best things you can possibly do. And I think in the majority of situations, unless it's a really niche or odd service, I think you could probably get a client right then and there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite tips that I give people when they're trying to land their first clients is instead of going and just directly selling to someone, although that's totally appropriate in many circumstances, is going and asking for advice from somebody that could be a potential client. Be like, hey, I'm starting this business. You'd be my dream client, and I just want to learn from you what types of things you're looking for, and kind of really, set my stage appropriately to accommodate people like you. Again, you're asking for their expertise, not their business. But by the end of that conversation, they know you really well. They trust you. They know your intentions. You've built social capital with them. And all of a sudden at the end, you can make that ask of, hey, I'd actually love to help you with exactly what you're talking about. This is why I think I could do it. No pressure, of course, right? That's a much easier sell. Social capital is powerful. It really does unlock so many different things. We are relational people. And I just want to throw this out there because, again, you and I are very different personality-wise. And socially, we operate in the world very differently. What did networking feel like to you in the early days? Like, what was your association with networking in general?
Yeah. So, first it started off just saying who I was, what I was doing. And honestly, that got me my first client and several referrals. Like, that was really, really powerful. And I'm good at talking about myself. I can talk. I think most people can talk about themselves if they're willing to. And so just putting myself in the situation where people said, "Oh, how's work going?" And I would say, "Oh, well, I'm starting this CPA firm." And then they'd say, "Oh, cool. Well, I know someone." That was the first big step.
Before
and then,
you even took that step, if I had said networking, what would connotatively you experience?
Yeah. So,
because now I know you're a big fan, now that you've actually experienced it or whatever, but before you took the plunge and I was like, you should network. What was your association?
My association would be going to a bar from 5 to 7 and talking with a bunch of different people and schmoozing. That would have been my definition of networking.
Business card in hand, firm handshake. Yep. Yeah.
Yep. And I do that. I'm not going to say that I don't, but that would have been my initial thought. And I would have told you, heck no, I hate that. I don't want to do it. I still don't like it. That's my least favorite. way of doing it.
I definitely think networking has an ick factor, unlike most aspects of business, but it really doesn't have to be that way, right? Like, again, you and I have very different personalities. You're much more introverted than I am, but both of us have been very successful networking in our careers, right? And for me, the way to get over that ick factor for anybody is just remember that networking is sharing passions with people, like connecting on shared passions. So, and again, in your case, the business owners you're talking to, they're very passionate about their business and the success of their business. And you, as providing accounting services, that's what you're passionate about too, right? So it doesn't have to feel gross. It's just you being like, tell me about your business and sharing about what you do for businesses, right? Again, when I think about if you're looking for expertise that you don't have, and again, there's going to be so many things you don't know how to do at the beginning of starting a business, the people that have those answers are proud of having those answers, right? Like, so
Yes.
don't feel like you're, wasting their time. You're giving them an opportunity to be an expert in something, and they're going to be excited to be that, right? So just, it doesn't have to be artificial. You don't have to practice schmoozing strategies or salesmanship. You can literally just be genuine and honest. And it's really just letting people know what you're about and letting them share what they're really good at and excited about. So the most introverted people I've ever met are also can be incredible entrepreneurs and have been incredible entrepreneurs. You just have to be willing to have those conversations and access your social capital.
Yeah, something I could never do, but Alex Hormozy, who I'm sure you've heard of before, he's the author of $100 Million Leads. He always recommends just pulling out every contact in your phone and calling them and telling them what you're doing. You don't have to sell them, which I appreciate. And I think he's right in that fact, but he's like, just call them up and be like, hey, I'm starting a CPA firm. How are you guys doing? Or you could switch that, right? How are you doing? I'm starting a CPA firm. That's probably the better way of doing it. And personally, I could never do that. That would freak me out a little bit, but I think he is right. If you had to find clients or customers or sell a product now within the next 24 hours, I think that would work. And that I think is a perfect example of networking and a way that you can start a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Make yourself lucky, get it out in the universe, let your inner and your outer network do work for you. I want to make this even more concrete for us. Like, let me give you an example of yet another way social capital can make magic happen, right? So let's say I'm starting an e-commerce company and I realize I'm going to need warehousing and delivery services. There's a lot of different options in my community, right? There's a lot of businesses that would love to offer that. And it would take a lot of time for me to vet every single one of those and decide, okay, I now had 50 conversations with 50 different companies and I've looked at all their different pricing. Instead, I should think about my network and be like, okay, who owns an e-commerce brand? Maybe I don't know anybody personally, but didn't my aunt, didn't she do some work for someone that, owns a shoe company or whatever? I happen to know like a million e-commerce owners, but that's kind of my line of work. So it's not surprising. But even if I didn't, I guarantee someone in my inner or outer network would know somebody who's built a successful e-commerce company. So I find that person in my network, I take them to lunch. I say, hey, I'm trying to find a great warehousing and delivery kind of 3PL service. Who do you use? And do you like them? And have you used other people in the past, right? All of a sudden, instead of spending 50 hours vetting different companies, I spend literally 1 hour at lunch with somebody and I learn what I don't know about it, right? All the pitfalls they've fallen into that now I'm going to avoid, who they've worked with, why they like them, why they don't. I've got a warm contact that maybe I'm able to get a discount with that company because it's coming from someone they trust. There's so many things that 1 hour unlocks for me because I was willing to first think about my social capital and put it to work for my business.
No, that's really good. I think of a charity that I work with as more of an advisory role called Book Drive for Kids. You're welcome to look it up and donate. They're awesome. I love them to death. They do such a great job. But when they started, they didn't have any capital, any of that financial stuff. They started networking, let people know what they were doing, how they were trying to do it. And if you don't know, books have a lot of they take up a lot of physical room. And so they needed a warehouse to store these books that get donated before they can then do book fairs or selling books. They don't sell the books, but to the kids, right? And they ran into another nonprofit who they got connected with. They chatted. Lo and behold, they had some warehouse space they weren't using. And they just said, yeah, just go ahead and put your books there for now. And, as you grow, we can talk about, if it's needed to change locations. But that helped them get started. I think they still store books there today. That's just such a big unlock that they wouldn't have had if they didn't just network, talk to people, explain what they were doing, right?
I mean, just think about how powerful that concept is in so many ways, right? Like in this case, saved them so much money. And it was specifically what they needed, right? Like it might just be a stopgap before they get their own services, but like now they have specifically what they need for their size and stage of growth for what they're trying to accomplish. And what it comes down to is, do you trust just the things you know, or do you trust the whole community's worth of knowledge and opportunities, right? Like you might be aware of 10 opportunities or 10 strategies to solve a problem or 10 people you could hire, but the community knows thousands of opportunities, has thousands of answers, has thousands of potential people you could hire, right? Put that thousands factor, even tens of thousands factor to power in your business, not just limit yourself with the what's right at hand for you, right? The magic pixie dust. I'm not lying. It will completely change everything. And it is baked into the story of every single successful business. Like it's kind of the unsung hero of the startup stage in every way.
Well, people always call it luck or serendipity or something, right? They'll have some term. Every business owner I've talked to has some story of this randomly happening. It really does happen because of your networks and your social capital that you gain. So we talked a little bit about Alex Hormozy's way of going through your phone contacts, and that is one way of doing it for sure. Like I said, that would terrify me, but I do think it would
honestly
work.
I'm extroverted, but cold calling like high school, friends would not be my first move.
Not my first move either. Not saying it wouldn't work. I think it really would. Are there other like concrete strategies you recommend people to do to really grow that capital?
So you mentioned this at the beginning, but I do think it's important. Just being open with what you're doing is huge. Get over that. I guess it's fear, right? At the end of the day, we're afraid to tell people that we're trying to do a big thing, right?
Yeah. It's ego,
so step
right?
one,
Like I'm scared that I'm going to tell people I'm doing this and then fail miserably and get another job in 6 months. That's totally what it is.
Right. It's scary to call yourself. In my case, it took me a long time to be like, yes, I am a consultant. Like I had made tens of thousands of dollars in consulting before I was willing to tell people I'm a consultant, because it feels that, right? It doesn't, especially in those early stages, it might even feel like there's some imposter syndrome going on, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is, they always say fake it till you make it. It's not even faking it. It's just owning it. Own it. And by owning it and by being honest with what you're doing and genuine and excited, that's going to spread the word out and unlock social capital in your business. So step one, really overcome that fear of being honest with people and being bold, right? Objection is not going to hurt as bad as you think it's going to. People respect people that are trying and doing things. So just like accept there's going to be some no's or some not interested. That's totally fine. If you're being genuine, they're not going to like hate you for it. The other thing is, as you approach these interactions, always be trying to add value for them. Right. And again, sometimes adding value is letting them add value for you. Right. Again, I use that example of tapping into people's expertise. I help people with their businesses for free all the time. Limited, like I'm not going to do their whole business or consulting suite, but people are like, hey, can I have a conversation? Can I take you to lunch and just kind of brainstorm with you this direction I'm taking? And of course, I'm going to help them out. Right.
Yeah. If you approach it the right way, for sure, I'll even tell you what website to go to register your LLC, things like that,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
100%.
And again, they're respectful with my time. They realize this is my profession and they're not demanding things of me, but they're giving me an opportunity to talk about what I love to talk about and what I'm an expert in. And I spent so much of my life thinking about, right? So they are adding value to me by providing me that opportunity. So adding value can mean lots of things. It can mean literally doing stuff for them, and trying to be useful in their business and generous with your time and your resources. It can be allowing them to be generous towards you. But whatever it is, always add value in every interaction you have. Don't have a take mindset or what's in it for me mindset. And I hope that doesn't feel like a paradox, because it really isn't. Like that's how social exchanges happen. It's always a give and take. It's always a shared excitement. And so lean into that. The other thing I would say is identify where your people are and put yourself in that situation, right? So in your case, Chamber of Commerce, again, they have kind of a stereotype in the business community of everyone's just trying to get business from everybody. But you've been incredibly successful in participating in Chamber of Commerce.
And we can make fun of Chambers of Commerce. I'm totally okay with that. There are some really odd people that go there every week, and there's some really great people. And there are definitely some salesmen, and there are definitely people that are just there because they don't know what to do or they don't have anything else to do in their life. But it is so effective. And I think mainly because it's a government thing. So it's very low cost. It's very low risk. And I think for me personally, it was great practice.
Yeah.
Because I showed up week after week for months, and every time I would have to network, I would have to explain what I was doing. I'd have to give my 30-second pitch, right? I've got that thing nailed down now. And so now when I approach someone, I'm so much more confident than I was before. So we can rag on Chamber of Commerce all we want, but I'd strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
I think it's some of the best. I think mine locally was $400. And then, boy, I've gotten quite a few clients from it. And that's not always going to be the case. But
the key there is that's where your straight of business were, right? You were looking for business owners with a size business. That's where they would be, right? The Chamber of Commerce was the perfect kind of opportunity for there. If you'd been doing a tech startup, you would not go to the Chamber of Commerce, right?
True. That is a good point.
You would be going and finding where the venture capitalists and the founders are. So thinking through, okay, who are my people, whether that's the people I want to have as clients or partners or investors or co-founders, whatever it is you're trying to network into, think really strategically about where are they? Where are they hanging out? And it's going to be different in each community, but a little bit of brainstorming and a little bit of networking to find out, you'll figure it out very quickly. And then put yourself there. Be bold and figure out a way to participate. Whether that's, there's these incredible stories, and I encourage my students to do this, college age students do this all the time, where their time is cheap, to be honest, where I'm like, go find someone you respect in an industry you want to be a part of, and then just go ask and be like, what would it take for me to shadow or intern for you or provide value? I just want to be where you are, and learn from the circumstances you're always in. The students that take that advice have done incredible things, right? So I think of a good friend and someone that I've been mentoring. They just had an incredible successful raise in their business for an awesome startup. It all started because they went and worked for dirt cheap as an intern in a venture capital firm, made all these amazing contacts, saw these different successful firms, and then went and built their own. And then lo and behold, they already know the people they need to know that are going to invest in their company and connect them with their first clients, right? So go put yourself in the places where the people that are going to unlock value for your business are, and then add value as you're there. Be a team player, contribute to the community. Honestly, it's simple, but that's really the formula.
Yeah. So I'm curious because, I'm very service-based business. A lot of my clients are service-based businesses. So I understand the physical networking very, very well. And I understand too, networking with consultants or other people that are semi in your space. What about, because I think of what if you were manufacturing pencils? Mm-hmm. Where on earth would you even network for that? Because I'm going to sell these pencils online on Amazon. They're really pretty. They're well done. But where on earth would you even go? I'm just curious.
So there is a whole world of networking opportunities that the layman like us don't run into. I think of an amazing entrepreneur I've worked with the last few months. She does a specialty spice business. So these are infused salts and spices, very niche. And her success has come from these very specific specialty trade shows that I wasn't aware existed, but they're all over the nation. There's international versions of this where people are selling to major corporations or to each other, but they're getting their kind of food and beverage products out there, right? And so every time she's gone to one of these trade shows, she's left with 10 to 12 referrals for companies that want to source their spices from her, right?
Wow.
So no matter how niche it is, there's a lot of people doing similar things to you. And in some cases, you can be the community builder and initiate that, and that can provide tons of value, right? So if you really do find a niche where you're like, okay, truly, I can't find anything that would really benefit, then build it, right? One of my heroes is a venture capitalist here locally, and he built Utah Tech Week from the ground up. So London has a tech week. There's cities all over the world that have tech weeks where kind of investors and founders come together. he's like, I wish we had one of those. Utah could really benefit from one. So he built it, and it's become this huge grassroots thing where the scale of it is mind-blowing and the impact is huge. But he saw an opportunity to actually initiate the community, and because there was so much value to be had, people just rushed to support him and bring it to about. And it's put him in a really cool position where now he's connected to all the major investors nationwide and now growing internationally. He's got first dibs at all of the amazing startups, right, that are coming to be part of the tech week that he built. So you'll be surprised what is out there if you do some digging, but if at the end of the day you don't see the opportunity you wish was there, then make it.
No, that's really cool. Advice I got when I was starting my firm is to find a niche and ingratiate yourself inside that niche. And the joke from the influencer, the accounting influencer, yes, they exist. Speaking to your point of communities that you wouldn't think exist, but he always joked, like, go be the apiary specialist. Things that are so small that you wouldn't think about, there really are huge communities built around these things. And as you kind of understand and weasel your way into the industry, right? As you become an expert in that industry, you'll be shocked at the opportunities that show up.
So yeah, I mean, again, I love that advice, and from that accounting influencer, which I will now, going to go follow all the accounting influencer podcasts.
He's awesome. Jason Stats, you should definitely go check out.
That's a
his
good
great
time.
business advice. But
I'm sure our wives would love to spend some time with us listening to those. But if I were to talk about what he talked about in network terms, it means there's some network cluster out there. There's some group of people that all know each other and all passionate in solving problems. And if you can insert yourself into that cluster, there's so much value to be had, right? Especially because other people aren't participating there. So, man, I could talk about networks all day, but the key takeaway here is put your networks to work for your business. Use social capital. Don't rush to financial capital to solve all your problems. There's even specific things that financial capital can't do as well as social capital, right? There's people that'll take your money and provide things that aren't going to solve your problems, that where if you applied social capital to that same issue, you'd get much better results. That's a whole other conversation you could have. But my point is, don't rush to financial capital. Use your social capital first. And that can even put your financial capital to more efficient work when you've paired it with social capital, right? So use your social capital, use your relationships, use your network, use your community. There's so many different ways we could talk about it, but go there first and let the magic pixie dust work.
Magic pixie dust. I will ask one kind of question on this, because I'm always curious what people's opinions are. So we talked about a chamber of commerce, and that does cost money. It's pretty minimal though. But do you have strong opinions on like BNI or Master Networks, these paid for networking groups?
In general, my suggestion is always to start free, because until you've tapped, there's just so much to be had in everyone's network that it's underutilized, I guarantee. So there's nothing wrong with these paid networks, and people have a lot of value. They exist for a reason, but start with what you have at hand. Really come to know the extent of your social capital and get good at navigating that, because there's no substitute for that. Now, that being said, there are specific paid opportunities that might be right for your business. But my suggestion is know what you're looking for, know what it offers. Don't lock yourself into something that's like going to be a long-term thing. But yeah, they can be really, really valuable in so many ways. But my biggest fear with them is that you're going to underutilize that network you already have built in, and you're just going to rely on that paid service. And that would be my main fear.
Yeah, and that's always kind of been my opinion of it. Like for my own personal business, I just don't see a point, because my social capital is just growing monthly anyway.
Yeah.
And so why pay for a service when I don't have to? I still have untapped social capital out there, and pretty significant, I think. Having said that, I have seen BNI catapult businesses as well. So it's not saying that it doesn't work,
and
just my own personal.
Explain BNI for those that are uninitiated.
Yeah, so BNI, and I don't know the exact cost. I know I think it's in the thousands, but basically it's a paid networking group where they match you with other business owners, specifically not in your field. So if there was a marketing person and another marketing person, they're not going to be in the same BNI group, which just allows it so that there's not really competition. And then in that group, you really gain a lot of social capital. You meet together often. And then the idea is then that you network and use each other's social capital to grow your business.
And there's different flavors, like you say, masterminds. There's a lot of these different kind of international or national brands. The one little tidbit I'll put out there too, again, these tend to be exclusive, right? They limit the group sizes and things like that. They tend to be expensive. A lot of the times, the very most valuable, most elite groups are not paid, right? Like there's, these groups will sometimes sell you on like, ooh, you're going to be with the best of the best and whatever. But truly the best of the best don't have to pay to have these things happen. A lot of the times there's going to be natural groups. I know in my context, the most successful business owners in the community, they already know each other. They already do deals. They're not paying to participate in these things. So also, there's a little bit of skepticism that I would suggest bringing to the idea that you need to pay to access the best. Because in some cases, I think of like the owner of the Jazz, the owner of Qualtrics. I'm not going to find a group I can pay in to talk to him, but I have mutual contacts that could connect me with him, right? And he's really one of the biggest, huge success stories the Midwest has had for a while. They definitely have a place. There's nothing wrong with them. If they fit your business, awesome. But just know that the unpaid opportunities are vast and almost without limit. So go there first.
Yeah. And on personal side, I have a fantastic networking group that I go to once a week that isn't related to anything, no Chamber of Commerce or anything like that, or BNI. It's totally free. It's just a bunch of us that we get together. We're in the area. That has been one of the most lucrative and beneficial networking groups. Mm-hmm. And that just was, again, pixie dust, the reason I'm in there. Right. And so I think a lot of it just comes as you network, as you kind of grow, you'll gain these connections, and you shouldn't have to pay for some of these. But again, I'm an accountant, so I'm cheap. So there's some pros and cons to everything.
Yeah. Well, again, everyone has to be cheap in those and lean in those early stages, right? And that's the other thing is when you hit a level of success in your business, go for it, right? It could be a luxury good at that point, and a lot of people do that, right? Sometimes the paid aspect means that they're working with other businesses that have the means to pay for it, right? And so again, there's nothing wrong with it, but find what fits you and your business best. Yeah.
Well, let's wish everyone some magic pixie dust that's listening to this, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the Unsexy Entrepreneurship Podcast. Seth and I want to continually improve and make sure that we're covering the topics that you as an entrepreneur really want help with, but we need your help with that, and here's how. So first, please like and subscribe to the show wherever you're getting your podcast. We want this to get into as many hands of entrepreneurs as possible. It could really help make their business a success. Secondly, leave us a review on your podcast app. We read each and every single one of those comments, and it really helps us in our planning to make this tailored for you as an entrepreneur. And lastly, send us your questions directly. Just click the link in the episode description and you'll be able to contact us directly, as well as get notified of upcoming shows and value-added content. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we'll be back next week. Thank you.